The beautiful red planet Mars has popped into several news articles recently, and scientists have been trying to find whether Mars is habitable. Even billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX is working in this direction. But do the original inhabitants of Martians know about these developments? Just kidding. I'm talking about the Martians from planet Mars, who are fictitious characters in renowned English author H.G. Wells' sci-fi novel titled War of the Worlds, published way back in 1898. Martians are the lead antagonists in the story and are about to invade planet Earth since their own planet has become uninhabitable. The book's popularity has been such that there have been multiple adaptations of its story, and the book has never been out of print. The author wrote it between the years 1895 and 1897, which was put into sequence by UK's Pearson magazine and America's Cosmopolitan magazine. As per sources, the entire novel was published as a hardcover in 1898 by William Heinemann, and it followed the story of a narrator witnessing the dreadful Martian invasion in London. This story has become the epitome of any sci-fi story told so far. Let's take a look at this iconic work of creation. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Martians in the War of the Worlds novel, The Coming of the Martians. The story in the novel unfolds in the words of a narrator who lives in England's Woking, located on the outskirts of the city of London. The plot centers around an extraterrestrial species living on planet Mars known as Martians, who must leave their planets since they figure Mars wasn't equipped to handle them. Therefore, the next best bet is planet Earth, which becomes their haunt. The story is set at the end of the 19th century, when the Martians were looking to relocate to a more habitable planet. It's not known where and how the Martians originated. In my opinion, they were probably vagabonds jumping from one planet to another, exhausting the respective planets of their resources. Armed with advanced technology, the Martians first launched their attack on planet Earth through the release of gases, which was first noted by astronomers keeping a close watch in space. But the astronomers weren't aware that it's an attack from the Martians, not even when the narrator reports a falling star-like thing appearing close to his home. On investigating the fallen star, scientists figure it was a peculiar-looking object that looked like a cylinder, one side of which was flat like a table. When they dismantled the cylinder, it looked like it was carrying life inside, and as soon as they opened it, the Martians strolled out of it. Are these the real Martians? According to the narrator, these were merely a medium on which the Martians were aboard, for example, vehicles. So only part of the Martian was visible to the scientists. For example, when humans are inside cars, only part of their bodies are visible. So in short, when the scientists opened the cylinder, the Martians marched out of their choice of vehicle. As the scientists tried to establish a dialogue with the Martians, a strange object emerged from the pit, and a heat ray is fired at them that burnt anything and everything that came in its path. This was the first sign of hostility the Martians showed towards humans. Almost all people and scientists curious about the falling star and its inmates are burnt to ashes. The narrator makes it to his home and informs his wife. Scared for his family's safety, the narrator takes his wife to Leatherhead, which is situated in the Mole Valley district of Surrey, England. He travels with her by renting a dog cart from the local pub owner. When he returns to give back the dog cart that night, he sees the unimaginable. For the first time, he witnesses a strange being, the Martian in his full glory, perched on its fighting machine called the tripod. It was armed with a device that could fire heat rays and a chemical weapon that hoarded the black smoke. The tripods were so powerful that they were responsible for burning down humans and scientists who had neared the pit, as previously mentioned, to establish communication. Most of Woking's residents had been killed. The narrator, when he reached the pub, found the pub owner dead as he choked on the black smoke he had inhaled. As he surveyed the level of devastation, the narrator notices an artilleryman looking for shelter since his faction had been destroyed when they attacked the Martian cylinder. They both escape to Leatherhead, but they separate due to a Martian attack between Shepperton and Weybridge. The army had managed to attack a tripod with a heavy volley of artillery, allowing some relief to the refugees who were escaping from River Wey. The narrator escapes to a market town named Walton, which is located on the south side of the River Thames in the northwestern side of Surrey. It was in the borough of Elmbridge where he met a Catholic priest. At first, the Martians retreat when the army managed to destroy one of their tripods, but they return and attack again, creating a terrorizing atmosphere in all of London. All flee for their lives. Even the narrator's brother runs for his life with their neighbor, Mrs. Elphinstone, and her sister-in-law to keep the ladies safe. As they reach the coast, they buy tickets on one of the ships ferrying refugees to continental Europe on a makeshift fleet of refugee ships. But before they could leave, the Martians' tripods attack, and during the attack, the army uses their torpedoes to destroy them, but in the process, destroys itself, resulting in great loss. The refugees flee for their lives, seeing the carnage. The army's attempts at resisting the Martians fail, and the aliens roam about on planet Earth without any disturbance. They had succeeded in scaring away all the people. The Earth under the Martians. In Book 2, the narrator has the priest as company as they move from one place to another to dodge the Martians. There was destruction everywhere when they finally take shelter in an abandoned building that surprisingly had a stock kitchen. Here's when another one of those dreadful Martian cylinders lands near their building and destroys it. Due to the rubble, the priest and the narrator are trapped, but they can see the Martians in action. The priest, by now, had lost his sense of mental balance and began to yell in horror, which attracted the attention of the Martians. The narrator punches him hard, making him lose his senses and leaves. But the mean Martians find the priest and drag him away. It was now the narrator's turn, and he would soon be discovered, but he escapes at the nth moment. It was like a burning landscape with bodies all over when he stepped out. There was no food or help. The narrator hides in the coal cellar and is almost discovered. The carnage reminds him of what one of the artillerymen had told him. It was time humans went underground until they had enough strength to overthrow the Martians. The times were bad. The narrator feels fighting the Martians would give him a purpose to live until he gets diverted into looking for his wife. As he looks for his wife, he too goes through a tumultuous time thinking about the gruesome situation. He finally finds his wife in his home in Woking, but there were no signs of the Martians, who are suspected to have vanished due to the bacteria on planet Earth. The Martians were not equipped for bacteria due to the absence of the same on their home planet. The story ends with the narrator appreciating the Martians' attack, which stirred humanity into a sense of frenzy and alerted them about the existence of extraterrestrial species. But the learning came at a cost, which seemed unacceptable. How did the world's most dreaded villains look? H.G. Wells' creation, The Martians, has very vivid features that could be called octopus lookalikes. Its body comprises a head about 4 feet wide, 2 button-like eyes, and a V-shaped mouth. The area around the mouth is crowded with tentacles that resemble whips, which constitute their hands. The Martians follow an asexual way of reproduction, wherein they are sprouted from the buds that originate from a parent. The anatomy of the Martians consists of the lungs, heart, brain, and blood vessels. They have no other organs and satiate their hunger by consuming blood through pipettes from an animal or human. They have one ear consisting of a single membrane that constitutes the eardrum and is strategically placed on the back of the head. Their ear is extremely sensitive to sound waves, and the Earth's atmosphere isn't conducive to its functioning, making the Martians deaf on planet Earth. Studying the features of the Martian, they seem to belong to a species from the family of humans, but due to evolution, what's left of them is just the main organs, as previously mentioned: one head, a brain, and tentacles, which they use as hands. While on planet Mars, Martians can stand using their tentacles, but on Earth, whose gravity is far stronger than planet Mars, they tend to be more passive. As per the narrator's observation, he has never seen the Martians conversing, which means they used telepathy as a mode of communication. The sound of hooting was heard when they were out and about, which the narrator says could be a whiff of breathing out after they had drawn blood from their victims. The other sound that was heard from the Martians was when they were down and out with the bacterial infection, which led to their fighting machines emitting a siren-like cry for help and pain. It sounded like "Ola Ola." The Martians and their machines. Their main war machines include fight machines, cylindrical spacecraft, and, as previously mentioned, 2 deadly weapons: heat rays and black smoke. They use their hands, their wriggly tentacles, like whips to lash at things, as well as catch something or someone in their clutches. The fighting machines, also known as tripods, are movable machines that, as previously mentioned, have 3 legs with metallic tentacles that are centrally located and hold the heat ray projector. The head has a hood that seats the Martian, who operates the machine. The fighting machines are around 100 feet tall. The fighting machines hold the heat ray with one of its mechanical arms, which aims at the target and fires it from a device with a camera. It's capable of burning anything and everyone to ashes. Their chemical weapon, black smoke, is a lethal poisonous gas that's shot from gun tubes lodged in the fighting machine. These gun tubes look like bazookas that fire the black smoke stored in canisters from a distance, which is capable of killing any living being. The black smoke can be deactivated by spraying steam through nozzles in the fighting machine, which converts the black smoke into powder. As and when the Martians leave a place, a red weed is left behind, indicating their presence. The roots of the red weed could be the Martians' home planet. The fighting machine is the Martians' main machine that they use to invade planet Earth, along with the handling machine, the flying machine, and the embankment machine. The embankment machine, also known as the digging machine, is an automated machine mentioned in the novel only once. While there's no physical description mentioned in the book, the author has explained its function as an excavator to make place for their spacecraft to land. The power of the excavation is so strong that it vibrates the Earth's surface and emits green vapor, making whistling sounds. However, when the Martians need to travel short distances, the embankment machine is left behind. The flying machine isn't described in detail in the novel, but its function is transporting the Martians in space from one planet to another. However, the book's screen adaptations have extensively used flying machines. The ruthless Martians who left humans in a state of despair and hopeless. The most important part of the Martians' body is their brain, which makes them far more advanced and superior to humans. Their anatomy, body shape, and weapons are all superior to what humans can use or invent. They lack compassion, which shows in the way they ruthlessly and mercilessly destroy humans with their superior weapons. They showed no signs of a dialogue. Their purpose was to destroy and invade. The black smoke they used seemed like the author's take on pointing out to humans the industrialization that had polluted Earth. Inhaling the Martians' black smoke seemed subtly vengeful and a reminder. The worst part is the way they transfused blood from humans for their own survival. They treat humans like obstacles who unnecessarily occupy planet Earth, which belonged to the Martians. The Martians display arrogance, thinking the whole universe is their own property, and they can go anywhere and everywhere at their own will. They're like parasites who, after depleting the resources of one planet, abandon it and move to the next planet to repeat the process. The narrator mentions in the novel that the Martians were gorging on the food by feeding off humans. It felt like all along they had been starving on their home planet. The impact of the Martians' attack on planet Earth proved to be harmful to the mental health of the humans, which was well projected in the character of the priest in the story, who turns insane seeing all the carnage. The author also highlights the state of mind of the artillerymen who felt helpless with the attack. This was the first time the military was decimated with the superior weapons used by the Martians. It was indeed a war of the worlds. The downfall of the Martians. Although the Martians are superior to humans, it's amazing how Earth's infinitesimal organism made them writhe in pain. The biggest flaw of the Martians' so-called technological build is that it doesn't factor in infections from viruses or decomposition caused by foreign particles, which became the reason for their downfall. Also, while living on planet Mars, the Martians succeeded in eradicating diseases characteristic of Mars, making them complacent about the effects of diseases. They didn't know what was in store for them on planet Earth. They weren't prepared, which led to their downfall. They didn't know about the organisms on planet Earth and were like sitting ducks who, despite causing devastation, met their fate. The Martians aren't that weak because the novelist H.G. Wells mentioned that the Martians had successfully invaded planet Venus, which housed putrefactive bacteria that feasted on the dead. War of the Worlds Martians screen adaptations. Different directors adapted the War of the Worlds into a movie 5 times. The most popular of the lot is by Byron Haskin in 1953 and by Steven Spielberg in 2005. These big-budget films used modern technology to present the sci-fi inspired Martians. Paramount Pictures produced both. There were cheaper ones made too, like the one in 2005 by David Michael Latt for $1 million, which was set in present times. Martians. Another adaptation in 2005 by director Timothy Hines was set in the 1900s. There were some differences between the movies and the novel. For instance, both these adaptations were set in the present. Timothy Hines also directed a mockumentary in 2012 based on the 1900 Martian invasion. Here's a look at the big-budget movies. What plot did they follow? Brian Haskin's War of the Worlds starred Gene Barry and Anne Robinson and won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. The story begins in the small town of Linda Rosa, California, where an unknown object crashes near the city. Hearing the crash, Dr. Clayton Forrester, who is an atomic scientist, visits the impact site to investigate, but finds nothing noteworthy. Later, at a social gathering, he meets a lady named Sylvia Van Buren, who is at the gathering with her uncle, Pastor Collins. Sparks happen, and Forrester and Sylvia fall for each other. Meanwhile, at the impact site, everything wasn't normal. Something opens as if unscrewed from the object and drops down. The action at the impact site attracts the attention of the U.S. Marines, who stand guard, wanting to make contact, but are burnt to ashes as the Martians emerge on their tripods. From here on, the plot follows the novel's story as it goes on a rampage, destroying the town. Hundreds lose their lives. The Marines are rendered defenseless since no weapon was effective enough to destroy them. Pastor Collins attempts to use his tactics to establish contact with the Martians, but loses his life. The Marines retreat, and the whole place triggers a spate of refugees retreating. No one was able to get through the force field of the Martians. Forrester and Sylvia escape in a jet, but have no choice but to emergency land in a small town. They hide in a farmhouse, but get buried in the rubble created by another tripod attack. A long cable fitted with an electronic eye lands near the farmhouse, but Forrester cuts it off with an axe. An alien attacks Sylvia, but Forrester hits it, injuring it. Forrester now collects the electronic eye and the blood of the alien. Along with Sylvia, they reach Los Angeles University, where he asks a team of scientists to examine the contents of the alien. They conclude that the only way to annihilate them was to use the atomic bomb. When they do so, the Martians continue on their rampage unaffected. The impact of the atomic bomb separates Forrester from his girlfriend Sylvia. They're finally reunited in a church that was full of people praying for the war to end. Here's when they hear the invaders approaching, until, much to their surprise, they start collapsing one by one. Was this a miracle? Forrester wonders. The narrator's voiceover is heard, saying that the Martians had everything to destroy planet Earth, but couldn't withstand the bacteria in its atmosphere. Steven Spielberg's adaptation starred Tom Cruise as the lead protagonist, while veteran actor Morgan Freeman narrated the story in the background. The movie also stars Dakota Fanning and Tim Robbins. Big names shown in its production credits included DreamWorks Pictures, to name a few. The story begins with the narrator announcing the vile intentions of aliens to attack planet Earth since they had become jealous of humans and their dominance over planet Earth. The protagonist, Ray Ferrier, is divorced and plays a crane operator in one of the Brooklyn docks. He has a wife and 2 children, namely 10-year-old Rachel and teenage son Robbie. Ray's wife, Mary Ann, who is pregnant, drops off their 2 kids with him in Bayonne, New Jersey, as she leaves for her parents' home in Boston, Massachusetts. Right after she leaves, a thunderstorm occurs, and lightning strikes multiple times, activating an electromagnetic pulse that turns off all electronic devices. When Ray steps out to investigate the impact of the lightning, he notices a lot of people had gathered at the intersection. But as they go closer, the Martian tripod surfaces and starts firing its energy rays at the witnesses, creating pandemonium. People turn to ash. Ray escapes. His only purpose was to take his children to a safer haven. Ray drives through the carnage as the tripod attacks again, and people run helter-skelter. As he reaches his ex-wife's empty home, they witness an airplane, a Boeing 747, crash nearby. News was out that the Martians had attacked several cities in the world, and the worst was here. Ray's next attempt is to get his children to Boston, to his ex-wife's parents' place, but they're attacked by a large crowd of people running for their lives. The Martians destroy even the ferry the refugees board across the River Hudson. The U.S. military is no match for the Martians, ruining all hopes of victory until Ray loses his son Robbie, who joins the war in disgust. He was mad with anger. It's truly poignant for Ray, who had no choice but to flee with his daughter, leaving his son in this dangerous situation. Ray and Rachel get shelter at the home of an insane ambulance driver, from where they witness the Martians wreaking havoc. The trio remains hidden. Ray notices that the Martians are leaving behind a red weed across planet Earth, which is manure made of human blood and tissue to reap alien vegetation. The driver now reaches his peak of insanity and starts screaming. Fearing his screams would attract the Martians, Ray kills him when a second tripod attack happens, and unfortunately, his daughter Rachel gets abducted. Ray chases them, orchestrates his own abduction, and fights the Martians by using grenades. He destroys their tripod and finally reaches Boston, where he finds the alien vegetation was rotting and the tripods were getting inactive. Ray figures the Martians had gone weak due to some reason, since their energy shield seemed deactivated. He immediately informs the army, who shoot them down with ease. Ray and Rachel unite with his ex-wife, and luckily for them, Ray's son Robbie had survived. In the end, the narrator says that the downfall of the Martians was due to the numerous bacteria that had housed planet Earth, which humans were immune to, but the Martians were not. Key differences. A close look at the big-budget films shows some key differences between the movie and the novel. For instance, both adaptations stuck to the same reason that led to the end of Martians. The Spielberg version was truer to the novel than the Haskin version. Storytelling-wise, the story followed a climax by the end of Book 1, and Book 2 dealt with the after effects of the climax. In these two movies, however, they delayed the climax, used character setup, and led to an early mock climax, followed by the real climax and resolution. Also, since adaptations were in present day, they addressed a fact that a 20th century US Army could easily overthrow a 19th century attack by Martians with those weapons. So changes were accordingly made to show the Martians had superior weapons. For instance, the introduction of an energy shield made the Martians more difficult to defeat. In short, the Martians were made far more terrorizing to suit present-day antagonists. Other adaptations include a recent one released in 2023, directed by Junaid Syed. Multiple titles were released directly in the video. In 1975, the book was adapted as a television movie titled The Night That Panicked America, where the story follows actor Orson Welles' commentary on a radio broadcast. There have been innumerable movies, plays, and radio adaptations of the book, including tributes to the author H.G. Wells' creation. No adaptation of The War of the Worlds is complete without the mention of Jeff Wayne's musical version. The musical album was released in 1978 and is a tribute to H.G. Wells' novel. It became a massive hit and was released as a CD in 1990. The story follows a reporter in place of the narrator, who talks about the Martian invasion using a lot of lines from the book. This musical version is considered to be the most accurate retelling of the novel. The musical went on for a live tour featuring well-known actors such as Richard Burton and Liam Neeson, to name a few. Separately, there have been adaptations of Martian weaponry. The Embankment Machine was used in a graphic novel by Dark Horse Comics, where the machine is shown as an automated centipede that ate the soil instead of digging it. In the story, these centipedes are found in the Martian camp in London, where they are affected by the Earth's bacteria. Another version of The War of the Worlds was seen in the 1998 PC game based on Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds. The four-legged embankment machine built resistance in the form of structures to shield any attack. Marvel Classic Comics also adapted The War of the Worlds in issue number 14, which was released on February 1st, 1977. In addition, in 1999, the storyline of The War of the Worlds was seen in the Superman universe, where he fights the Martians. Marvelous verdict. The War of the Worlds is a story that was way ahead of its time, and its climax says it all when the narrator feels that the attack is necessary for humans to wake up from their deep slumber. Even though this came at the cost of so many lives, a lesson was learned. Both parties, the Martians and the humans, showed arrogance. The military didn't anticipate and weren't prepared for an attack of this level. No wonder many adaptations keep the story alive, reminding humans to stay alert and humble. Here's raising a toast to our humble selves. Until next time, stay alert. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.